So, in an earlier video, I mentioned how my preferred gaming experience involves free roaming and doing things at my own pace. My favorite FNaF games are FNaF World, Freddy in Space 2, and Security Breach, though I'm not sure I could tell you which of those three is my number one favorite. FNaF 2, on the other hand, I said I haven't played for a long time due to its monotony not lending to great replayability, but I have of course played it. In fact, I've played it all the way through, beaten every custom night challenge, gotten several rare Easter eggs, and even found a few exploits. By no means can I say I dislike the game, it's just not my favorite. I don't have much gameplay footage of it, but I did have a few of the custom night challenges recorded, with decent quality and audio as well. The original FNaF games used some copyrighted audio, so I thought I'd talk over it anyway. Like I said, FNaF 2 does get a bit repetitive, so this will hopefully give you something interesting to listen to while you watch. In my last video, playing Help Wanted, I commented a few times about how different that game is from the originals. FNaF 1 in Help Wanted offers no way to stall either Foxy or Freddy, and once Freddy arrives outside your door, he stays there indefinitely. In FNaF 2, there are quite a few differences. Obviously, the fact that the Withereds don't appear until the last night makes the experience significantly different, since you have only half the amount of enemies to worry about until then. Also, you don't have a flashlight battery, so you can leave the lights on as much as you want. While playing Help Wanted, I noticed I never heard vent noises, though I don't know if this was intentional or not. Sound cues are very important in the original FNaF 2, so I'm used to depending on them. The typical strategy for playing the original game was to wind the music box a certain amount of time, put the mask on as soon as you put the camera down, if playing on harder modes, flash the light a few times, check each vent, and rinse and repeat over and over the entire night. There was no sitting and waiting for 6 AM. You had to keep moving all night. It was tiring. Help Wanted, on the other hand, felt very relaxed compared to that. You could wind the music box almost non-stop in the VR version, and still quite frequently in the flat version. Since there's no flashlight battery, I took to keeping the hallway light on as much as possible to keep track of who was around, as well as deter Foxy easily. Since I never heard vent cues, I had to check the vents every once in a while, but once I got that down, the game was really easy. No threat of animatronics pulling you out of the camera and requiring super fast reflexes. The only reflexes you needed now was to put the mask on whenever someone decided to enter the office, which was generally more lenient. Also, Golden Freddy never showed up. If I had attempted the same strategy for Help Wanted in the original FNaF 2, not only would I have run out of battery fast, but Golden Freddy would probably have killed me pretty quickly. He would sometimes appear as a head floating in the hallway, and if you shined the light at him for too long, he would jump scare you. In other words, no leaving the light on for extended periods of time. But Golden Freddy isn't even in Help Wanted's FNaF 2, so there's absolutely no threat of that. FNaF 2 was an important game in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, regardless of how I feel about the gameplay. When I first learned about the series, the first 2 games were already out, and we had some early teasers of FNaF 3. I watched a bit of Markiplier's FNaF 1 playthrough, and then my brother showed me the first 2 Game Theory episodes. In other words, I have Markiplier and MatPat to thank for drawing me into the fandom. While MatPat's first video was intriguing in its own right, the second, covering FNaF 2, showed just how deep the lore was. Easter eggs, death minigames, secret characters. There was so much lore compacted into this one game. And besides that, this game is where my channel name came from. When I became a hardcore fan, I looked into absolutely everything. At the time, the fandom was small enough that I could just search FNaF on YouTube, sort by recently uploaded, and watch all the new videos. Can't do that anymore, unfortunately, but I found out so much by doing this. One of those things was hidden secrets in the game's files. Things like how Golden Freddy was just called Yellow Bear, Balloon Girl was actually named JJ, and Shadow Bonnie had this ridiculous name created from mashing the keyboard. But I looked, and no one had taken it yet, so that's what I set my channel name as. Now, it's obviously not unique anymore, but I can safely say I was the first, and everyone else is a copycat. Okay, but I will change my channel name sometime in the future, not significantly just yet, but enough to make me unique. I'm keeping the handle though. I think I earned it. As you can see, this game is very important to me, even if I don't play it much. It may seem overcrowded with so many enemies and so much lore crammed into it, but I think it's really what set this fandom in motion. FNaF 1 was the hook with its groundbreaking innovation, but FNaF 2 carried the franchise to what it is today with its introduction of deep, and sometimes controversial, lore. I didn't actually play any of the games for myself for quite some time after this though. In the early days, they actually scared me. I'd actively avoided horror of any kind prior to this, so I had no experience playing horror games. It was bad enough watching Markiplier play it. I was just as tense as he was most of the time. But when I finally got past that, I bought the games for myself and played them. And since I already knew how they worked by then, they weren't even that difficult. Now, since you can see me playing the game in the background here while I talk, why don't I address some of my strategies? Night 1 is pretty straightforward. Only Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica are active, and it's the only night where Foxy is not. Of course, you can play it the way it's intended, check where the animatronics are on the cameras, listen for vent cues, put the mask on whenever someone enters, all while winding the music box when you can. The music box doesn't even start winding down until Phone Guy mentions it, and it's very slow compared to later nights. Or you can throw all this out the window and use one of the game's few exploits that I found. You see, none of the toys can pull you out of the cameras like the Withereds do, not even Toy Freddy. And since Foxy isn't active, you don't have to worry about the lights. That means you can literally stay in the cameras all night and just wind the music box. But don't you dare put that camera back down late in the night when everyone's in the office waiting for you. Sadly, that only works for night 1, because then Foxy comes out to ruin your fun. The typical strategy I described earlier works pretty well from here on out, but you don't necessarily have to have lightning-quick reflexes just yet. Balloon Boy, like I mentioned in other videos, will speak every time he moves, so you basically just have to count to 4 before he's there. Mangle's presence will always be announced by that obnoxious radio static. Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica will make vent clangs to warn you of their approach, so be checking for them when you hear that. Toy Fred is the only one at first you have to be quick about since he just appears in the office. Although, there is a rare chance that Golden Freddy will be active on night 2, so if you ever see him, you might want to do the whole throw the mask on immediately thing when you exit the cameras. Golden Freddy can kill you very quickly. In fact, I've had him kill me within like the first 2 seconds of a night before. When the rest of the Withereds join in night 3 onwards, now you want to be quicker about using the mask. Bonnie and Chica will make vent noises to warn you, but then they'll just appear in the office and may pull you out of cams. Freddy will too, but your warning instead is seeing him looming in the hallway in front of you. Golden Freddy usually doesn't show up until night 6. By now you really should be putting the mask on every time you put the camera down, so if you keep that up, he won't be a problem. Now, while the Withereds prohibit you from being able to take off the mask until they leave, Golden Freddy doesn't. He also doesn't make any sound to indicate he's there, making him easy to miss. But you don't have to keep the mask on very long to make him go away. His appearance may actually be a welcome break where you can check the vents and rest for a bit before returning to winding the music box. In the harder nights, I found that clicking each button to check the vents or hallway lights consumed too much time. I wasn't always real precise with my clicking, so it was slowing me down. But I discovered that if you click and hold, you can just move the mouse over the button without needing to be real precise, and it'll light up. Because of this, I would basically hold the mouse button down all night, which made my fingers sore after a while. That's another reason I don't replay this game very often. In these challenge modes I'm playing in the background, you can see how I modified the strategy a bit to account for which characters were present or absent. While Foxy and the puppet were always a concern, I could skip checking one or both vents if I knew I didn't need to, and could be more casual with the mask. A bit of concern was not to be too zealous with the flashlight. Since I wasn't doing the full cycle, I tended to shine the light more often, so I was running out of battery quicker. Surprisingly enough, it didn't take me terribly long to beat 1020 mode. Something I figured out is that you can actually simplify the strategy in that mode, purely because of how often everyone attacks. When I beat it, I hardly ever checked the vents. I wound the music box either until someone pulled me out of cams or until a few seconds had passed. Put the mask on immediately, waited for whoever was there to leave, because someone was almost always there, shined the flashlight a few times, and went back into cams. This worked because the toys would often attack at the same time as the Withereds, so putting the mask on to fend off the Withereds warded them off as well. No extra time needed to be wasted checking the vents. Now, this doesn't necessarily work on easier modes, so maybe just save this for 1020. As for Easter eggs, I have seen RXQ, JJ, the endoskeleton in both the vent and the prize corner, Shadow Freddy, and all of the death minigames. I have not seen any of the rare boot screens, and I don't think I ever noticed the paper pal. I also never let RXQ kill me, fun as that would be. Usually I just happen to notice him on quick flips and I've already put the mask on by the time I see him. I've messed around a bit with the death minigames, standing on top of one kid and take cake to the children to see if I can keep one kid happy the whole time, trying to memorize which kid is which and give gifts give life so I can give them their masks in a particular order, and wandering around and save them looking for things. I have yet to encounter Purple Guy in there though. Usually the game times me out since I'm in no hurry to finish it. I think I've talked on long enough now. If you watched this far, good for you. Tell me if you like this style of video or if I should do something different. Also, I made a poll to see what I should do for the next Cheater's Guide episode, so I'd appreciate it if you could go vote on that. That's all for now. See you next time.